Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Prospects Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Peter Baracchini, and I am joined in by my co-hosts, fellow prospects experts, Matthew Zator and Greg Boysen. We are also very happy to be joined by Devin Little, THW's Red Wings writer and line mate of the Grind Line. Sorry, Patrick, I took that line from you. He's our line mate for today. How's everyone doing today?
Doing great. Happy to be on.
Awesome. And as always, if you guys enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button and notification bell so that you don't miss out on future episodes. We've already had past episodes involving the Canucks, Maple Leafs, and just overall prospect chat. You don't want to miss that. And also don't forget to subscribe to our Morning Skate newsletter at morningskate.io. So let's just get right into it. The 2021 draft recap. It was a very big one for the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of options for the Red Wings at 6 overall. Passed on William Eklund. I don't know if that's going to really bite them later on, but they managed to take Simon Edvinsson, and still a really great pick. So Devin, we're going to start off with you. What was your initial reaction to it?
You know, doing my draft coverage for the Red Wings leading up to the draft, I will admit that Eklund was kind of the player I landed on as the guy I was hoping to see them take. So then when he was sitting there available at 6, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Simon Edvinsson. Okay. All right. I can live with it. I think that it's far too early to say that the Red Wings should have taken this player or that player, or they missed on that player. It was only a couple months ago. I'm not surprised that Eklund's looking real good with San Jose right now, but to his credit, Edvinsson's looking pretty good over in Sweden right now. And to kind of address the comparison between the two further, we're trying to compare a forward to a defenseman, and that's a bit of a rough comparison to make in the first place. But what you have to look at this as is just Detroit added a really solid blue line prospect, and they've got another solid blue line prospect that's about to graduate. So it's nice to know that they have another guy waiting in the wings now at that position.
Yeah, the pipeline on defense for the Red Wings is looking pretty deep. And Matt, when we were doing our draft rankings last season, there were some question marks with Edvinsson regarding his, two-way game. Kind of looked a little bit flat-footed at times during the U18s. What do you make? I mean, Devin mentioned it that he's off to a hot start this season. I mean, is it just a case of him just trying to round out his game a little bit more? Because he's looking very impressive right now.
I think that's true. The thing is with Edvinsson is, like, when we're doing the draft coverage, his defensive game was a little bit raw. But I mean, that can be developed. With defensemen, it takes a bit of time to develop that two-way game. And he will get it. He's a smart player. He's probably one of the better skaters for his size as well. So, and that you can't teach with size and having good skating. And the Red Wings got a really good pick there. And I've said on the Grind Line when I was on after the draft that he's going to be a top pairing defenseman. He's going to lead that defense in the future. So they got a great pick.
And Greg, the Detroit Red Wings, I mean, they always seem to nail the draft every single year. Is this a pick that was kind of similar to that of Moritz Seider in the past?
It could be. I mean, it's so tough passing up on Eklund there, though. But to Yzerman's credit, I think he knew what his two biggest needs were, and one of them was at left defense. He's got the right side kind of short up there in his mind. He needed that left defenseman. So, I think with, taking a guy like Lucas Raymond last year made it easier to pass on Eklund and say, hey, we've already got that dynamic forward coming up. We've got a couple other good forward. We need that left side. This is our guy. This is our need. He had two needs going into that first round, and we'll discuss the other one here in a second. So I think it was more of identifying what they needed, the best player for that need, as opposed to just saying, hey, this is the best player available. So, he obviously identified Seider a couple years ago as the guy he wanted, and so he probably went the same way here. And early turnout for both of those guys is that those are the right moves, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you mentioned we're going to get into the next player right now in the first round. If there was any year to draft a goalie within the 10-15 spot, it would have been this year. But Steve Yzerman surprised many again by taking Sebastian Cossa at 15th overall over Jesper Wallstedt, who was probably the consensus goalie to go first overall. Matt, what made Cossa the more appealing option over Wallstedt?
Yeah, you said it is very surprising to see the Red Wings pick Cossa in the first round. I think, or where they did, Cossa was going to go in the first round, but to go over Wallstedt when we had all of us had him in the top 10 at times, and our final ranks was around that too, and he didn't go there. Cossa did, and it was surprising, but I think it was the right move. The way he dominated the WHL last season, he's going to be a hell of a goaltender, and it's going to take a while before he's here. He's not the solution that the Red Wings are looking for right now. They got Ned right now for that. So, but he's going to be like I said, a heck of a goaltender in the future.
Greg, do you think that this is a case of, probably just going with the player that had the better numbers, because Cossa was lights out during the shortened stint in the WHL, but Wallstedt probably had the bigger sample size, but Yzerman felt that Cossa was their guy?
Yeah, I mean, heading into the draft, I was high on both of those guys. I pretty much 1A, 1B. I mean, you couldn't really go wrong by picking one over the other. So I think they're both going to be franchise goalies. Before the Blackhawks made their trade and went down by getting Seth Jones, I was hoping one of those two guys would come to the Hawks. And I actually thought Wallstedt might be the guy for the Wings at number 6. I was worried about that happening as far as from the Blackhawks standpoint. But, when it comes to Wallstedt and Cossa, they're both high-end goalies. Maybe it was the size that was more attractive for Cossa than Wallstedt. I mean, he's 6'6" compared to 6'3", and they love those bigger goalies. So maybe that was the difference maker there, or who knows what was discussions happened in the scouting rooms. But there was obviously some intangible that made him go that route. But again, as I said, I don't think you get either one of those guys in your pipeline, you're doing okay.
Yeah, just for comparison, Wallstedt early on, 3 games, 900 save percentage, and a 207 goals against average. Cossa, 1 game, 1 goals against average, 972 save percentage. Devin, we already mentioned that Alex Nedeljkovic is going to be their starter for the next few years. Obviously, is he going to be that placeholder until Cossa is ready to make the jump?
You sure hope so, right? I think that this is going to ultimately be up to Cossa, because there's always risk when you talk about goalies being drafted, especially in the first round. For every Carey Price, there's an Al Montoya, and if Cossa can be the goalie that he was drafted at 15th overall to be, then it might be only a couple of years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years until we're talking about him being the starting goaltender in Detroit. And luckily, like you just said, they've got a 25-year-old in Alex Nedeljkovic that has plenty of tread left on his tires. And if he can be the goalie he was last year, he's definitely suited to just kind of man the crease while the blue chip prospect marinates elsewhere.
Yeah, and if Sebastian Cossa repeats what he did last season and be the backstop for Team Canada for the World Juniors, it's going to be a really great draft year +1 for him, no doubt about it. Sticking with the 2021 draft, obviously there were other players selected outside of the first round, kind of a rapid fire segment. So who is one player that stood out for you in this year's draft for the Red Wings, Greg?
That's no brainer. It's Red Savage. I mean, the dude's name is freaking Red Savage. How cool is that? I mean, done, sold. Give me his jersey. But in all seriousness, I like the pick. I mean, for where they got him. The kid is a relentless forechecker and is a beast on the penalty kill. That's something that I don't think gets enough credit about how good you can be on a penalty, especially at that age. And the kids, junior players, they don't want to play on the penalty kill. They want to play on the power play. They want the glory. They want to get on the stat sheet. But he's a really good two-way player, but he also can be a dynamic offensive player. Not sure his style is going to translate to the NHL quite yet, but there's plenty of time to work on that. But I mean, come on, the Detroit Red Wings draft a guy named Red Savage. Win.
Red's in his name. Devin, who did you like?
The challenge is on the St. Louis Blues now to draft a guy named Blue. But no, the guy who stood out to me was Liam Dower-Nilsson in the 4th or 5th round. I don't remember which one exactly. First of all, it came out after he was picked that he is like best friends with Simon Edvinsson. So I thought that was kind of cool. Apparently they were watching the second day of the draft together, and every time the Wings were up, Edvinsson was like, come on, pick him. So they finally picked him. But yeah, for a lot of the same reasons why Greg is excited about Red Savage, I am just as excited about Liam Dower-Nilsson. He's kind of like the Swedish comparable to Red Savage in my mind. He was a captain in the World Juniors junior team, has a real solid foundation in a two-way game. I don't think he's going to be anything more than a bottom 6 forward in the NHL if he makes it there, but he could be a real solid kind of Swiss Army knife type of player, and players that do a lot of things good. That's a good foundation to build off of.
Also very physical as well. Not afraid to lay the body. Matt, who did you like?
I'm going Shai Boom. I loved him when I was doing my rankings. He's physical. He's mobile. He's really smart, great, hard worker. Everything I love in a prospect. So Shai Boom's going to be, again, defenseman that is going to he may not be a top 4 defenseman, but you never know. He's got all the skills to be playing that role, but he's definitely going to be in the NHL at one point. He's got a very well-rounded game and high character as well. So Shai Boom for me.
I was very shocked to see this player drop to the 5th round, as I thought he was kind of in that mid to late 3rd round range, was Oscar Plandowski. And the fact that they were to pick up such a very mobile and fluid skater that late just speaks volume to their drafting and scouting department. Very great pick, very elusive, good hands as well when he's in transition. Obviously, he did 17 points last season. Short or small sample, given that it was a shortened season, but hey, 1 point, 1 assist in 1 game so far this season. So hopefully that trend continues for him. Going on to topic 2 right now. Obviously, it wouldn't be a segment if we didn't focus on the big 3 for the Detroit Red Wings. So Moritz Seider, obviously we all know what happens. He goes from a very questionable pick to being a very decent and solid top prospect for the Detroit Red Wings, and who's, poised to be their top defenseman for the future. Safe to say that, Greg, we shouldn't doubt Steve Yzerman with his selections.
Well, no, you should always doubt and question your general managers. These types of pick means you can give them a little more leeway for future picks, but you should always be questioning your leaders, no matter what we're talking about here. So, but I mean, come on. I mean, the kid, I love Mo Seider. It's as I've said in a past episode, I wish he played for any other organization. Well, not any other organization, but a lot of other organizations. He's a beast. I mean, I was able to see a few of his games in person in the 2019-20 season covering the AHL. Got to see him against Rockford and Chicago a few times, and even in person, he just stands out. Not just physically, he's bigger than half the guys on the ice, but he's just impressive. He's just big and mean, but can skate. He's such a good passer. He's gonna be a stud. And so, people, I think more if Seider was Canadian and not German, that pick wouldn't have been as surprising or as questioned as it was at first. But the kid's the goods. There's no doubt about it. Worth that pick if 100 times over.
Devin, last season or last draft 2020, I know you were extremely ecstatic when Lucas Raymond was called. I'm not going to lie, similar to the way that Nylander dropped to the Maple Leafs, and I was ecstatic for that, but definitely not looking out of place early on at the development camp and even spring training right now. And from what I saw early this for one of their games, he's going to be playing on the top line with Dylan Larkin. And honestly, I'm just as excited for every other Red Wings fan out there. Does he have a good chance to make the roster right now, or is it best to probably start him off in the minors and then call him up in the future?
I think about 4 or 5 days ago, I would have said that I was really confident that he was going to start in the AHL. But in the last couple of days, we learned that Jakub Vrana is out for 4 months, and that presents a big old hole in the top 6 that a guy like Lucas Raymond could definitely fill. If I'm looking into my crystal ball and trying to tell you what's going to happen, I think he does still start in the AHL, but I think he's probably one of, if not the first guy they call up if an injury happens elsewhere in the lineup. Like you said, he just looks so good in the early going. He added, I know when I was doing my scouting of him last year, I was really impressed by his playmaking ability, but his shot has really impressed me these past couple of weeks. So for a guy like Vrana, who Detroit was looking at to score for them to go down, well, it would be nice to add a 19-year-old kid who looks like he's ready to do some scoring.
And if you haven't seen that video or clips of him during the U18s a few years ago, scoring a hat trick on Yaroslav Askarov in the gold medal game, do so right now. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. Matt, one name that seems to be, flying under the radar behind Raymond and Seider is Jonatan Berggren. And although he was a second round pick, he has first round skills. I mean, his playmaking abilities is just off the charts. Not trying to compare him to a Patrick Kane or a Mitch Marner, but does he have the potential to sort of be a really strong playmaker in the NHL?
Yeah, I agree. And he's a favorite of Grindline's host, Patrick. He's mentioned him a lot.
Can't confirm.
Yeah, he is the real deal. Unfortunately, he was injured in the Prospects tournament there, but again, not seriously. But he had a heck of a season in the SHL last season. I believe it was the SHL. He's going to be a top line forward in the future, and hopefully very near future for the Red Wings' sake. But yeah, I think he could be, that's high expectations to say he's a Pat Kane or Mitch Marner, but I think he is that type of player, and he's going to be a playmaker for the snipers that are coming up in the system, Raymond, those guys. So yeah, just watch this guy. He's going to be highlight reel.
Sort of roundabout question for all three of you. Could this year be the chance where we get to see all three of them on the roster at some point? And maybe in the case of Raymond and Seider, challenge for that Calder Trophy. Sorry. Matt?
I hope so. I mean, for the Red Wings' sake, if all three of them are in the lineup this season, that's really good. I don't see it really happening. Seider for sure. Raymond looks like for sure. Berggren, we'll see about him, but there is a high percentage.
Matt? Devin, sorry. I was supposed to say, what am I doing? Devin, sorry.
Matt, just repeat your points.
I'll
it's all good. No, I think Matt hit it on the head. I think that injuries are going to dictate what happens here. All three of them are not going to start on the roster. We're talking about maybe with Raymond. I think Seider's a lock for the roster. Berggren's got to get healthy and then get going. So he's definitely not going to start in Detroit. But I think that, if the right injuries pile up over the course of the year, and they always do, would not be surprised if those three are on the roster. Calder Cup, I don't think that Calder Trophy. You got me doing it now. 2 out of the 3, I don't think are challenging for the Calder this year. One of them being Seider, I think has a realistic shot at it.
Things are going great. First time hosting this show. Greg, do you echo the same sentiments as Matt and Devin?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Seider's going to be there opening night as long as he's healthy. And, Raymond, will be in the NHL at some point this season. Berggren's going to be the one that I think never playing in North America probably could use some time in Grand Rapids. But as the season goes on, sure, they could all three be at this time. But listen, the Red Wings, there's no rush for any of these guys.
No.
There is zero rush. Take your time. And if Raymond and Berggren play the entire season in Grand Rapids, that's not a bad thing. I know everybody's excited and want these kids up there, but the Red Wings are in a position to take their time, and that's what they should be doing right now.
Once again, this is the Prospects Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button and notification bell below so you don't miss out on all future episodes. Also, check out on a lot of other great shows over there. We have The Grind Line, as Devin is already here, coming on 2 shows right now. Maple Leafs Lounge, Blackhawks Banter, where Greg is from, Chicks and Sticks, and many other shows as well. Also, check out thehockeywriters.com for much more content from our amazing writing staff. You won't be disappointed. Now that we got that out of the way, let's continue with the show. With this current group of prospects, guys, coming up in the system, what is a realistic expectation that this team can be competitive in the future? Like, what is a realistic time frame? Devin?
The timeline I'm operating on is 2 to 4, maybe 5 years. 2 being the optimistic, everything goes right answer, 4 and 5 being the stuff is going to go sideways. You can't predict stuff. And yeah, but I will say that if the team is not competitive in 4 or 5 years, we might need to take a step back and look at what's going wrong, because things are heading in the right direction and they should be there by then. It's all going to depend on the growth of the kids they have and what they get out of the next 1 or 2 drafts.
Matt, one name that I think, we already touched up on the top 3, but one other name that's already impressed so far has been Donovan Sebrango. He looks to be turning heads early on. How does he fit into the Red Wings' future, where it's already possibly going to be a logjam on defense, where you do have Seider, where you do have Edvinsson, where you do have, a couple of other names in the system that are going to turn heads as well? What's his upside, and what can he do to bet challenge for a permanent spot in the future?
Well, like you said, he has turned heads. In a prospects tournament, he looked really good. In Grand Rapids, he looked good. So I think he's definitely a guy that can be in the system. He's be on the roster at some point. He's mobile. He's physical. He can mix things up, after the whistle sometimes. I think he can find a role. Defensemen like that, like I was saying about Shai Boom, a similar type defenseman, they can find roles in the NHL. On the Red Wings, we'll see how everyone else turns out. He's got a tough hill with the guys that are in the system right now. So, but he's looking good so far, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Greg, Joe Veleno was a first-round pick a few years back. Up and down junior's career, he seemed to found his way towards the end of it, but now he seems to be making strong strides in his development and has added a ton of strength. Obviously, battling for a center position, is he a player that opponents will think twice about going head-to-head with him?
Yeah, he definitely has that style play against, and I got to see a bit of him again in that 2019-20 season when he spent with the Griffins, and he was inconsistent, but that's a young player for you, especially first year pro. There were games where he was like, oh my God, this kid's going to be great, and then there were games you were like, oh, I forgot he was dressed tonight. So that's a lot of that. You can say that about 80% of the AHL on a given night. So but yeah, he's a hard-nosed player. He's definitely hard. He's got great speed and a really good two-way player. Makes it difficult to play against him in all 3 zones of the ice. Sees the ice well, good playmaker. So he's definitely a guy that, if he gets to his full potential and he gets to the NHL and he plays at a top level, he's definitely a guy that you're going to need to be aware of when he's on the ice. But I think he'll let you know that he's out there as well. And it's been 2018 was his draft year. We're heading into 21-22. This is the time where you need to start seeing results out of him. I mean, I don't want to say now or never, make or break, but it's kind of getting to that point. We're getting close where if it's a season where he's not in the NHL most of the season, he's back down in Grand Rapids playing inconsistent, then you really got to see what you got, and maybe it's time to move on. But hopefully for Red Wings fans, it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah, he's definitely one player that I'm keeping an eye on that's looking to make the jump this year and be kind of like, obviously get his feet wet as a rookie, but also, just take it one stride at a time and learn at that level. Other prospects that, you are excited about. I know, again, talked about the major names in the system. Greg, who are you excited about for the Red Wings?
Well, I'm a Blackhawks guy, so I'm not excited about any of these guys. I don't care if any of them make it. No, I'm kidding. I really like Albert Johansen. I think he's, until Edvinsson showed up, he was the top Swedish defenseman in the system now. But he's still, I like him. He's that big mobile defenseman, great puck handler. He's the typical modern day NHL defender. And you know what? He performed really well playing in the Swedish Hockey League as a teenager last year. I think he had 8 goals and 14 points, I think it was, or 19 points in 44 games. He's even got 3 assists in 4 games so far this year. So he's playing against pros, he's playing against men, and he's excelling. So I think that's a guy that, he's not the top prospect, but he's definitely a guy that's you should be keeping an eye on, and within the next year or two, you're going to hear a lot of.
Devin, who are you looking at?
I do want to start by saying I agree with Greg. My bold prediction for the year is that Johansen's going to be in North America by the end of the season, whether it's in the AHL or NHL. But the other guy I'm going to give a shout out to is Emil Viro, drafted 70th overall in 2020. He was a guy during my research of the 2020 draft that I really kind of latched onto. I think he plays a real smart two-way defensive game. Doesn't like pop like some other guys do, but I think he can fill a role in your either the second or third pairing, depending on who he's playing alongside. And he's looked real good this season too. I'm pretty sure today scored a game-winning goal in whatever game he was playing. So yeah, I've got my eyes on him. He's probably still a couple years out as well. But yeah, keep an eye on him.
Matt?
I'm going with the guy that hasn't seen a lot of ice in the last couple seasons is Jared McIsaac.
There you go.
Again, got injured. He's had such a heck of a time staying healthy. Got injured again the Prospects tournament. I'm glad he's fine because that's something that can screw up a career, concussion, stuff like that. But he's got high potential. I think I'm just impressed by his compete level to fight through all these injuries and still come back time after time. And he's got the skill to be an NHL player. Blew it up in junior a few years ago. He's a 2018 draft pick, but injuries have really derailed his development. I'm excited just to see, hopefully that he can actually get over this injury and develop more, but I'll keep an eye on that guy for sure.
I just want to note real quick, we all just mentioned defensemen.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right. I guess I gotta try and switch it up then. Let's see. I'm really intrigued with Theodor Niederbach. This is a guy who has great offensive awareness and potential, really great playmaker, really underrated shots. Drafted in this 51st overall in 2020, looked really good at the World Juniors as well, despite Team Sweden not having the best tournament. He still scored 2 goals in 5 games. Still really dominated at the J20 level, worked his way up. He seems to be coming into his own. He seems to be getting better at each level that he's playing at. So I'm hoping that he continues to progress very well because they got a really solid prospect in Theodor Niederbach, and I'm looking forward to him as well.
Yeah.
Before we close out the show, I just have one more quick rapid fire question for everyone here. Obviously, 2021 draft is coming up. We know who number 1 is going to be. not saying that the Detroit Red Wings are in the spot or in the hunt for the first overall pick, but if it does come down to it, is Shane Wright going to be a Detroit Red Wing in the future? Devin, I'm going to start off with you.
Well, I'm sitting on this panel here with two guys that cover two teams that have had some lottery luck, with your Maple Leafs, Peter, and your Blackhawks, Greg. Meanwhile, the Red Wings have lost the most spots in the lottery since 2017. They've had the worst lottery luck. So, no, I don't think Shane Wright's going to be a Red Wing.
That Alexis Lafreniere pick was in your grasp and it just fell away so quickly. I feel bad for you guys.
Lucas Raymond, but holy cow, that stung.
Greg, what do you think? Will Shane Wright be a Red Wing?
No, I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be in that number one pick. I mean, Shane Wright, start looking for condos in Buffalo, buddy, because I think that's where you're headed. Good luck with that. So no, I don't think they're going to be in that hunt for that number one overall pick. I think you're going to get too many of these prospects come up and start producing, and then late in the season you're going to start winning some of those games where you're like, stop doing that.
Matt, what do you think?
That sounds like the Canucks. Oh my gosh. That's always good. At the end of the season, they always win a ton of games when they've been losing most of the season. But yeah, I'm gonna say no. They're not gonna be. I'm going with the two thing. I'm gonna agree with Devin and Greg. They're not gonna be bad enough. I think they're gonna be a much better team this season. They're not gonna be in that last place around that. And even if they do, they're not gonna win the lottery. So it's a non-talking point.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to try and beat out the Buffalo Sabres the way that their roster is shaping up to be right now. So if they do not get the first overall pick, even if they pick in the same range where they were this year, where they took Simon Edvinsson, even a little bit lower in the standings as well, if they're in that 10 to 15 range, if they make some big strides, maybe even best case scenario 8 to 15, still a lot of great names that are making us a very good start to their, or having a great start to their season so far right now. So keep an eye out for that. 2022 is going to be a great year for the NHL draft.
100%.
And this has been another episode of the Prospects Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button and notification bell so that you don't miss out on all future episodes of all of our shows as well. Also, check out thehockeywriters.com for much more content from our amazing writers. For Matt, Greg, and Devin, this is Peter, and we will see you next time in the Prospect Corner.